Only good news.
Only good news. Anyway, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be back. I'm trying to remember, it might be a few months back when we met here in a different room, I think.
Could have been.
It must have been in your office, yes. And with a very interesting new approach. We came with Ngozi by car from Ouagadougou.
Has the road improved?
That's what I wanted to tell you. Now, some people say that the World Bank needs to be close to the reality. Well, we decided, okay, let's take a close look at the reality. And it was absolutely fascinating. We had a wonderful time. We slept in Tamale. It is true that the road from Tamale to the border it's in fact in the process of being upgraded and rehabilitated because it's in need of some repair. Then certainly south of Kumasi, the road is very good. No problem. Lots of traffic. It was a wonderful experience. I'm going to recommend to all of maybe I'll make it compulsory.
Well, that's the best we could do, really. I wish we could do a little better than that, but you know, it's a question of the resources, really.
Sure.
Anyway, Papa, do you have any points?
Well, visit, I think, and it is just to continue at its level. When it comes, it's more like to continue dialoguing with us on what we are doing with the bank, and to also see for himself what the implementation of the projects that we are working on have gone. We've had long discussions with him yesterday, the whole of yesterday in the morning, and then up to the afternoon we skipped lunch. And I think on the whole we are on track. We are on track. I think he came down here. Yes, he came down here thinking that maybe some of the things that he had heard, you know, were true. But I think he's convinced that, you know, everything that he knows about what is happening here, he's now verified for himself. There are a lot of areas where we've slipped, especially he's talking about roads. So I was happy he mentioned roads. Even with our slipping on the road sector, he still finds the roads not up to the level as bad as they are. What has happened is that the road, our backlog of road certificates not paid is about 140 billion cedis, you know. And it's an issue that was worrying them almost as much as it worries us. But we've worked out a way of solving the backlog and also putting into place a mechanism where this will not occur. I think that was one of the critical things they were worried about. We have not yet been able to solve the problem, how not to let it happen, let's say, from next year. But this year, what we've done is to get all the contractors together, tell them what we have available, so that we will together work out what each individual contractor can do by way of money so that we don't exceed it, with the promise that the backlog is going to be cleared. And we've got the agreement with the bank and the fund to do that.
Yes, certainly. This is now my second official visit to Ghana, with the privilege of having a chance to meet with the Chief of State. And the purpose of my visit was twofold. The first one is as a result of what was presented very recently in the budget speech, is to touch base with the Chief of State and hear from the Chief of State what is the context in which this budget speech has been given, and what is the present situation, the confirmation of the great orientations on economic management that he has been leading over the last few years. And secondly is to discuss with the Chief of State some of the elements of our strategy of assistance. You know that the World Bank, as an institution, has been very much involved in supporting the efforts of economic development in this country. And so it was a great opportunity to hear the views of the Chief of State as to what the situation is today and what is coming into the future, and what sort of efforts the bank, the World Bank itself, can do to support the efforts of development of Ghana.
So how do you find the situation today? Do you think we are doing well?
Well, what I heard and we could exchange with the Chief of State is that we can appreciate very favorably the orientation that is given by the budget speech as it was presented very recently, particularly on two fronts. The first one is to stay the course, meaning that Ghana is known to have followed some very important measures to facilitate economic development, especially through a liberalization approach to management of the economy, and that the budget speech does confirm the continuation of this approach. At the same time, it is known that last year has seen some difficulties through the numbers that many people are familiar with. For example, the inflation rate that had increased to levels that were a little of concern. And it is very reassuring and gratifying to see that the main elements of the budget speech contain anti-inflation measures that we believe go very much in the right direction to try to render the economy or put the economy back on a more healthy path. And so that was very important for us to hear from the Chief of State the reconfirmation of this determination to do whatever is possible to minimize the risks of inflation going totally out of line and going back on the tradition over the last few years of a low rate of inflation, without which it will be very difficult to promote economic development for the future.
So, over the past over a decade now, Africa has been involved in structural adjustment, and yet it doesn't seem there's any much improvement in African economies. Do you see would you say the structural adjustment has not been successful as the bank anticipated, or is there a structural problem in Africa that has not yet been corrected for economic development?
No, I think it must be corrected, the perception that structural adjustment has not worked and that's the only thing that the World Bank is interested in. This is a misperception which I want to correct. Ghana itself is certainly the demonstration that some of the good economic measures that have been put in place have been giving some good results, maybe not as good as what some people were expecting. That's perfectly correct. That we would hope that it would show better. But no one can take away some of the very, very significant progresses that have been made in Ghana over the last 7 or 8 years. After all, that shows through economic growth rates on an average of more than 5% per year over the last 10 years or so. It is also true that one would wish to see more. One would wish to see better. And structural adjustment that has become a bit of a misnomer is nothing else than a set of good economic measures that make sense. And today, what we can see is that there is a determination on the part of the Chief of State, a determination on the part of government, to continue putting into place those economic measures that will and do effectively bring results. The second point, which is very important, is that there is not only structural adjustment. In a country like Ghana, the World Bank is involved in much more than contributing to policy reforms and policy measures. It is involved in lots and lots of traditional, typical investments that do benefit the entire community of Ghanaians. I want to speak of the social sectors, where the World Bank is contributing to education, to health programs. We are contributing to programs in the energy sector. We are contributing into transport sector. So it's really a